So the idea that you need to have food in the morning to kickstart your day, breakfast's the most important meal of the day, is simply not true. A lot of people have heard about the powerful benefits of intermittent fasting for fat loss and health and want to give it a try, but they don't quite know what's happening in the body, so that's what we're going to talk about. If you want to learn how to build muscle and how to lose body fat, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the little bell as well. That's going to notify you every time I upload a YouTube video. At the end of the video, I'm going to share with you a tip that's going to help you if you're starting out with intermittent fasting and make it easier for you. The first thing that we need to mention before we start is that the body's been able to adapt over the years to living with periods of no food. The body is very healthy with periods of no food. Obviously, if you spend too much time with no food, you'll starve. But what the body hasn't been able to do is eat frequently like we have been doing in the last 100 years and have optimal health while eating that frequently. It's why people are suffering with inflammation. It's why everyone seems to be bloated. It's because we're eating too frequently and the body hasn't been able to adapt to that, even though the mainstream thought is that eating frequently is the best way, and it's clearly not. Some of you haven't been watching these videos until the end, and that's why I'm just listing out very quickly what we're going to talk about so that you don't miss anything. Make sure you stay for all of these points because I'm going to break them down in more detail. So first of all, we're going to talk about the adaptation period for the first few weeks of fasting. We're going to talk about intermittent fasting and insulin, the boost in energy, and we're going to talk about the sympathetic nervous system. We're going to talk about growth hormone and why that's important with intermittent fasting, and then we're also going to talk about autophagy and when that occurs, what time period that occurs at, and then at the end the bonus tip. The first thing I want to talk about with intermittent fasting is the adaptation period, and that's when you first start fasting. You'll probably find that the first week or two you're very hungry, and that's because we're in a transition stage. What we want to do is go from using glucose as energy to using body fat as energy. Most people are using glucose, they wake up, they eat breakfast, and I'm not actually against eating breakfast, but then you're immediately using glucose. Instead, we want to use body fat as energy, and when you're using glucose, it's oftentimes why people have that carb crash, because they're eating a lot of carbs and then they crash. They've raised the blood sugars, now the blood sugars come back down again, they've crashed. When we're using body fat as energy, you don't get that. The point is that first 1 to 2 weeks while you're adapting, you might think it's very difficult to do intermittent fasting. You might think, this is impossible, I can't go 12, 16 hours without food, but you just have to give your body 1 to 2 weeks to adapt and transition over to using body fat as energy opposed to glucose. Just quickly before we get into number 2, you can now apply for one-on-one coaching with me. This is only limited access. I'm not accepting everybody as a client. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to do that. But if you go to the link in the description, you want to work with me one-on-one, you want to learn how to get ripped without giving up your favorite foods, then fill out the application form and I will look through the applicants, and whoever I think is the best fit, we can get on a 10-minute coaching call and we'll be able to talk about your fitness goals and what we might be able to accomplish together. If I don't think that I can help you, I'll try and point you in the right direction of someone that I think might be able to help you. The second thing that intermittent fasting does for your body is it helps you have low insulin and it helps you be more insulin sensitive. Too much insulin, which by the way is triggered by the frequency of eating, means that you're going to have more inflammation in the body. It means that you're going to gain more body fat. It means you're going to have higher blood pressure. Intermittent fasting takes all of those things away by helping you have lower insulin because you're not eating as frequently. The third thing that intermittent fasting does for the body is it allows you to have more energy and have an increase in energy. When you eat your food for the first time in the day, you often feel lethargic, you often have that carb crash. The amount of people that complain about having a crash during the day, they don't have stable energy levels, that's usually because of the carbs. And I'm not against breakfast, I've said that before, and I'm also not against carbohydrates either, I'm not one of those guys. But why fasting, and this is just one of the reasons why you have more energy during the fast, it triggers the sympathetic nervous system, which is the nervous system that makes you feel more alert, it makes you have more energy, you're more focused. And the reason the sympathetic nervous system is triggered during this time is because the body doesn't realize that you can just go into the cupboard and take something and eat it. The body still thinks that you have to go out and hunt for food, and that's why it's got you in this state where you're more alert, more focused, because you need to be focused and alert if you're going to catch your own food, if you're going to find food, and that is why you're in this state. As soon as you eat calories, now you're using the parasympathetic nervous system, which makes you feel a bit more lethargic, a little more relaxed, not as fast, not as productive. And it's not a bad state to be in, but it's a state that you're going to have less energy in. You're going to feel less alert than you would when you don't have calories in your body. So the idea that you need to have food in the morning to kickstart your day, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, is simply not true. Number 4 is my personal favourite, and that's the growth hormone spike that you get from doing intermittent fasting. After around 12 hours of fasting, you get an increase in growth hormone, a spike in growth hormone by up to 2,000%, and that will increase the longer that you fast as well. Growth hormone is the main fat burning hormone, it's anti-aging, it repairs joints, it also triggers protein synthesis, and if all that wasn't enough, the biggest benefit of growth hormone is it spares muscle tissue. So a lot of people think that by intermittent fasting, because you're not eating in the morning, you're going to lose muscle. You will not lose muscle because growth hormone spares muscle tissue. In fact, if anything, you're going to build more muscle by doing a little bit of intermittent fasting, as long as you're still eating in a calorie surplus, because you're going to have more growth hormone than people that are not fasting. Number 5, and one of the most powerful health benefits of intermittent fasting, is it triggers autophagy, and this is so important. This basically happens around the 16-hour mark of fasting and increases every hour after that, especially the 18 to 24-hour range. You're going to get a lot of autophagy benefits. Autophagy is anti-aging. It's one of the best anti-aging things that we can do for our body. It also produces more white blood cells, which is going to boost your immune system, which in a time like it is right now, coming up to winter, we could all do with a boost in our immune system. It also repairs damaged proteins and damaged cells, which means less chance that you're going to get cancer. It also means it can reduce the size of a tumour if you did have a tumour.